In the 1800s, one of the most fashionable things a woman could have was tuberculosis. Pale skin, dark circles, and a thin, frail body. People literally tried to make themselves look sick. And that's not even close to one of the strangest beauty standards humans have had. Because if you look throughout history, what's considered beautiful constantly changes, even in ways that seem bizarre today. But these trends usually aren't random. In my last video, I talked about how beauty, specifically youth, functions as a form of status signaling. In nature, animals show their fitness through colorful feathers, giant antlers, and elaborate courtship displays. Humans do something similar, but instead of feathers and antlers, we have symbols, clothing, fashion, and beauty standards. And throughout history, the traits that were considered beautiful often signified time, wealth, and access to resources that other people didn't have, which explains some of the strangest trends we've had. For example, in the 17th and 18th centuries in Europe, extremely pale skin was one of the most desirable beauty traits. At that time, most people worked outside in agriculture or manual labor, so inevitably spending a long amount of time in the sun darkens your skin. So pale skin started to signify something very specific: wealth and social status. If you had pale skin, it signaled that you didn't have to work outside. It meant you had the privilege of staying indoors. And members of the aristocracy went through extreme measures to maintain this look. Women used thick facial powders to get this bright porcelain look, but they were slowly poisoning themselves. Some even painted faint blue veins on their face and neck to have their skin look thinner or more translucent. Elaborate powdered wigs were also super popular during this time with the wealthy class. These wigs were expensive, difficult to maintain, and overall just impractical. But that was part of the point. If a certain look took money, time, and effort to maintain, it subtly signified that you had the resources to maintain it. Not only this, but body ideals have also changed constantly throughout history. During the Renaissance and Baroque periods, fuller bodies were the ideal figure. This body type was so associated with beauty that it got coined the term Rubenesque, thanks to the artist Peter Paul Rubens, who often painted women with soft bellies, full arms, and just overall a more supple figure. And that term is still used today to describe fuller bodies. And it's because at that time, food scarcity was common, and having constant access to foods, especially rich foods, was a privilege. So having a fuller body didn't mean a lack of discipline, like some harmful stereotypes we have today try to say, but it signified wealth, fertility, and economic stability. In other words, your body type directly signified your access to resources. But one of the strangest beauty trends we've seen throughout history was in the Victorian era during the mid-1800s. During that time, tuberculosis, which was then called consumption, was one of the most plagueful diseases across Europe and North America. And the illness created a very distinctive appearance. Those suffering from tuberculosis had extremely pale skin, flushed cheeks, frail body, and pale, almost glowing eyes. And strangely enough, that look started to become romanticized. It was because Victorian writers and artists started portraying sickly characters as emotionally sensitive, intelligent, and spiritually refined. Illness started being associated with fragility and depth. As a result, the consumptive look started being portrayed in fashion and makeup. Some women even tried imitating the consumptive look through adding excess amount of blush and darkening the circles around their eyes. So people essentially started mimicking a deadly disease because it was considered beautiful. And looking back at it now, of course we find that strange. But at the time, it reflected cultural ideas about emotion and depth. So up until this point, extremely pale skin was the beauty standard. But in the 20th century, especially in the 1920s, that association flipped. Tan skin started being seen as fashionable. Part of this shift can be attributed to the fashion icon herself, Coco Chanel, who reportedly came back from her Mediterranean vacation with a suntan. And instead of hiding it, she had it become trendy. But a deeper reason for this change had to do with the shift in the average lifestyle. By the early 1900s, industrialization had a majority of people working office jobs or in factories. Suddenly, spending time outdoors started being associated with leisure instead of labor, and a tan no longer signified poverty. Instead, it started signifying something entirely: vacation, beach culture, free time. Once again, the beauty standard shifted. but the underlying logic remains the same. It all reflects status. But today, beauty standards evolve quicker than we've ever seen throughout history, and the major reason for that is social media. In the past, beauty ideals spread through paintings, photos, and film. Now they spread by ever-changing algorithms. Platforms constantly show us bodies and faces that get the most engagement, which means certain looks can become quickly amplified. And one current phenomenon that researchers often discuss and coin the term is Instagram face. And this is a very specific look that we see throughout numerous celebrities and influencers. It usually has features such as full lips, high cheekbones, flawless skin, a small narrow nose, and a sharply defined jawline. And what's interesting about these features is that it can be seen through people from diverse backgrounds, which means the beauty standard can converge into a singular recognizable style. And technology plays a huge role in this. Makeup techniques, cosmetic procedures, lighting, filters, and photo editing can all affect how we appear online. In many ways itself, the beauty standard has become digitally constructed. And another recent trend we've seen is the clean girl aesthetic. This look emphasizes clear skin, slicked back hair, minimal makeup, and simple but chic clothing. At first glance, this seems effortless, but that effortless look actually requires a lot of effort. High-end skincare routines, cosmetic treatments, professional hair care, and carefully curated wardrobes. In other words, this aesthetic communicates something very specific. It suggests health, organization, and control. But it also signifies resources and time, because who has the time to do an IV infusion of anti-aging skincare, which then connects beauty to status signaling? But body ideals are also continuously shifting. In the early 2000s, extremely thin bodies dominated fashion. But in the 2010s, curvier bodies became more prominent in popular culture. But recently, there's been increased talk about thinness again, particularly in the connection to medications like Ozempic, which was originally used to treat diabetes, but then now is widely discussed in the context of weight loss. Alongside this conversation, people are often talking about the Ozempic face, which is the term used to describe the change in facial appearance when one goes through rapid weight loss, where the face may appear more hollow or gaunt. But what's interesting about this discussion is that it shows how closely people can recognize and monitor beauty trends. Even slight changes in your body shape or facial appearance can become cultural talking points. But once again, the broader pattern remains familiar. Beauty ideals evolve alongside technology, medicine, and culture. And when you're living inside a beauty standard, it feels natural. But history shows that these ideals are constantly changing. Traits that once symbolized the embodiment of beauty are now seen as bizarre and unhealthy. And if you want to take it a step further, in my previous video, I talked about why youth itself became the ultimate beauty standard and how it connects to things like biology, status signaling, and evolution. So if you're interested in learning the deeper reasons as why beauty traits became attractive in the first place, make sure to check out that video after this one. But all of this raises one interesting question. If people in the 1800s believed having tuberculosis was beautiful, what beauty traits do we have today that people will look back on and find completely bizarre? Because if history taught us anything, it's that beauty standards don't stay the same for long. So if you like this video, make sure to give it a like, and if you're interested in beauty and fashion, but the evolutionary, psychological, and historical impact of it, maybe hit subscribe. I make videos every single week. Hopefully I'll see you in the next video.